All right. Good evening, everybody, and good evening, LaQuania. How are you this
Good
year?
evening. Amazing. I'm so excited. I'm so excited.
I'm very happy to be with you, and I'm thankful that this is our second year doing Styled and Ready. We are
Yes.
combining the mental with the wardrobe of it all and trying to make it make more sense. Uh,
Yes.
I am Jasenia McCauley, Wardrobe Utilization Specialist and owner of Styled and Emerged, helping you make practical, effective, efficient, and sustainably stylish use of your clothing. And we have
Mm.
Kwani here as usual. Kwani, you want to let them
Yes.
know a little bit more about yourself and Ready Counseling?
Yeah, so I'm LaQuanya Hagre. I am the founder of Shop So Many Things, but Ready Counseling Services, mental health counseling, where our new motto is healing is our lifestyle. So we're implementing lifestyle of healing. This is right on track with what we're doing, and we want to make sure that people feel good inside and out. So that's what we're doing here.
Amazing. So I'll just jump right into it since we did this last year. Anybody that watched last year, maybe they're familiar with the format. We are changing it up this year. So I'm going to be asking Kwani some questions and
Mhm.
getting some really good advice and information from a licensed mental health counselor. So the
Yes.
first question, jumping right into it, is from a clinical perspective, what would you say is the difference between like retail therapy when someone's stressed and they just go want to go buy some things that they were thinking about, compulsive shopping, and actual hoarding?
So I think there's a huge difference. I think there's like a level thing, right? Like there's levels to each category. And so compulsive shopping to me is in the middle of retail therapy and hoarding. So you would say like the baseline is, okay, I had a rough day, or this week has been, or is going to be really hard. I want to just buy a really cute shirt to help me feel, more prepared for the day, right? It reduces some stress, releases some of those stress hormones, but it's not taking over, right? Compulsive shopping happens in response to, like, it's a direct response to a feeling. So it's like, all right, you have this feeling, and then as a result, instead of coping, they're shopping, right? So it's like, all right, I'm doing this without any thought, without any kind of plan. It doesn't matter what my bank account looks like I need to do this to help me to feel better, and I need those endorphins. And then hoarding is the next step after that, right? So now it doesn't matter what my bank account looks like. It doesn't matter that people are concerned about me. It doesn't matter that I'm concerned about me. It just matters that I get this fix. And so now my place almost looks like my mental health. And we'll talk about that a little bit more too.
Well, thank you for that. That's a really great way to define the three. Myself, I used to be a compulsive shopper, so I definitely before I started Styles and Emerge, actually. So, I definitely understand how those triggers can like lead you to the mall or lead you to Walmart in the clearance section, right? And I
And
know
it's
that's
worse now because we have Amazon.
right. And then Amazon, I see that they sell clothes. Um, so I could see how you can be on Amazon shopping for a plethora of different things, and one sitting spend a couple hundred. So, ooh, that thank you for that. That hopefully that
Yes,
helps people kind of see where they're at, and
on
they
the
can
spectrum.
yeah help them adjust a little bit.
Hmm.
What about the relationship between mental health and using someone's wardrobe? How do you perceive wardrobe choices being reflected in someone's mental well-being?
Uh, it's just as important as body language, right? So we look at body language more than we look at words, even, right? So someone can say that they're fine, but they're crying. And so someone can say that they're fine, but they show up and they appear disheveled. In the world of mental health, we have a mental status exam. And so it says, okay, does the person know where they are? Do they know what year it is? Just like those basic things. And that is also how they're presenting physically on the outside. So are they appearing disheveled? Are they appearing like, is their clothing dirty? Are they very meticulous? Right? Those kinds of things help us to assess how a person is feeling, doing mentally and emotionally based on how they're presenting with that part of their personality, which is their wardrobe. So we look at that when someone comes in. Are you dressed appropriately, right? And appropriately, not like are your shorts too short, but appropriately, like based on what's comfortable for you. Do you look like you're comfortable, or do you look like you haven't been taking care of yourself, or do you look like this is the external shell that you want us to see so that we don't go a little bit beyond that?
Oh, I love that answer because I often tell people like sometimes the what most well-dressed person is the person crying out for help. And you don't sometimes realize that, like, because they smell good and they look so nice and they're color
Mm-hmm,
coordinated and their hair is
mm-hmm,
done, and it's
mm-hmm,
just like such a great look. But the
mm-hmm,
person doing that has a more of an outcry of like, I feel so whatever inside that the least I can do is just put all my effort into the outer because the
mm-hmm.
inner is so overworked and overwhelmed. And I myself was at one of those points in my life where I was like, honey, every single day, my nails, I changed my nail color to match my outfits.
Uh-huh.
But inside, I was super depressed and I just kind of like didn't know what to do with that feeling. So I would just be like, hey, buy something, wear something different, try a different color combo. And only until I had my son and did more deeper work on myself, did I realize that I was wasting a lot of my money and I was making a lot of I was packing up some emotional baggage and throwing it in the back of my mental closet, right? So
Yes.
just thankful for the awakening to be able to check out my mental well-being through my clothes and not think that I'm fine as long as I can get dressed. So that leads us to our next
Yes.
yeah, that leads us to our next question.
Mm-hmm.
So how does retail therapy intersect with mental health concerns such as anxiety and depression? Is there a like that retail therapy is more the lighthearted part as you described. It's just
Mm-hmm.
it's something that's not as harmful. You know, we
Mm-hmm.
all pretty much do it.
Yeah.
But is there a like a line where some of those things intersect, or is it only after it gets compulsive? Is it really a concern for your mental health?
Well, it's on a spectrum, right? And sometimes the spectrum is not even linear. Sometimes it's like cyclical. And so when you look at someone and you see that they're using clothes, it sometimes it brings like to my mind, okay, are they saying see me because they're not feeling seen? Or are they saying see only this because I don't want you to see what's deeper beyond that? Right. And so when I hear people saying like, yeah, I shop a little bit so that, or when I ask them like, what do you do when you're not feeling okay? And they're like, I just check out, hit check out on the online or something like that, little Sheen purchase. And it's like, okay, what's happening that's your resort, right? Like, is there something else? Like you're kind of coming outside of your body. So that's really important to notice and to see. And it's important to know their baseline. Is this how they are typically? Or is this something that's new? Is it something that is only in response to like the winter? Is this something that they do because, seasonal depression is about to come and this is how they cope, right? So it's important to know the person before we kind of jump to conclusions. There's not a one size fit all.
Gotcha. Thank you for that. So, anybody listening, check yourself on the spectrum, see if you're in a healthy zone or see if there's some things that you need to adjust. Just
Yes.
because, again, your mental health, even though you might like some new things and you might feel really good in the new outfit, if your cost per wear in your wardrobe isn't high and you're like you're spending maybe $100. Earlier, I think I said $250 for a jacket, right? If you only wear it once, that means that it was a $250 purchase. If you're able to wear it multiple times, now you're talking about, oh, this jacket really only cost me $10 because not only did I met the love of my life, I got a job. Like you start thinking about the life experiences that were brought to you by that garment and the investment that you made into it. Then, we start to see how it's really not that bad, right? Because you're
Yeah.
making effective and practical use of what you have. So I just wanted to put that part in there of like I agree with you, the spectrum piece, and that's giving people a little bit of how they can check in. It's like, how is this serving me?
Yes. Yes. And when you said that, it made me think that sometimes the retail therapy turns into compulsion when they're like, well, when I had this dress on or when I had this suit on, this happened. And so they're almost like seeking that experience again through the purchases. Right. So that is also a warning sign.
I love that because that was, I would say, thinking back, that kind of was maybe how I started, right? My mom would take me shopping in this on the weekends, and we had such a great time with our girls' days. And then when I got older, because of course it was her money, she was managing the money in the household. But when it became my money, I didn't really do the managing the managing part. So when I
Yeah.
put a pin in my compulsive shopping habits, I was able to purchase a car cash in 8 months.
Wow.
I was spending that much money. I was financially abusing myself. That's a lot. I was like, ever since then, I never turned back. This was before I had my son. I didn't turn back, and I just got better because I said that is a lot of money. I would give my mother all the money that I had discretionary every week. And when she told me, she's like, "You got a good amount of money. You might want to count your money, sweetheart." And I said, "I can go buy a car." And bought my first car. So I just wanted to say,
Yes.
for anybody out there, if you have any financial goals and you're telling yourself, I don't have the money for this down payment for a house, I don't have the money for this new car, maybe check your, shopping habits. Check your wardrobe. If there's things in your wardrobe you're not using, maybe you could sell
Yes.
it on Depop. I know that, just shameless plug, we're doing a Schenectady County drip drop. So if you have things you
Mhm.
don't want, feel free to bring them on June 15th. But other than that, I really just wanted to share that story so people can see how you really can make a big difference in your life by changing how you look at your clothing. And that's really just called enclothed cognition. And for anybody who didn't watch last year, it just
Mhm.
means the definition we assign to clothing, right? So for me, I define this as a not modest professional dress that also keeps me comfortable because it's loose and cool because it's thin. Now, someone else might say this is my date night dress, right? But for me, this is just one of those comfortable professional dresses I wear when it's warm out and I don't want things tight on my body, and I feel very confident. And
Mhm.
so I just wanted to throw that in there as well for anyone who's like, well, where do I even start? Everything's important to me. Start to break down what you really think and feel about it and what your enclosed
Yes.
cognition is. The last thing I
Yes.
wanted to say about what you said was the fashion industry mentally manipulates us. So on top
Yes.
of
Oh,
how we feel
yeah.
about clothing, on top of how we feel shopping, marketers, there's people getting paid lots of money to do research on us, especially now with AI, to do research on us and then manipulate us. So of course we're going to see the best of the best online now. Of course we're going to see the best workout outfit we've seen. Of course we're going to see the best shoe that you've ever seen in your life, right? Of course. And of course it's going to be on some sale or there's going to be some promotion for it to encourage you, or something it's going to end today so that you have that push to do it today, right? So we have to be aware. I just want to say that for anyone that's listening, to please be aware that it's not a coincidence, and don't feel pressure. Just like you wouldn't feel pressured if someone's honking the horn for you to go and it's a red light. Take that same approach to when these people are trying to get us for
Yes.
things that we don't need. We don't need it. And so I'll say that, and I'll get to the next question.
Love.
So let's see. So when you're assessing a client's wardrobe, what are some key behavioral? Well, no, we kind of talked about that. So
Mhm.
let's skip to, what strategies would you suggest for someone who engages in compulsive consumption related to clothing or accessories? And how do you think that they can manage their impulses effectively instead of like the
Mm.
cold turkey aspect that everyone like, just
Yes.
don't do it.
So that's a really great question. And I want to almost answer the last question that you were going to ask a little bit, because one of the things that we talked about last year, which really stuck out to me, is like if you are like constantly tugging at your clothes or something like that and you don't feel comfortable in it, that's a warning sign.
Mhm.
And that's how you know that really you're being more persuaded by industry, what's in, or, something else, and not how you feel about it. Right.
Exactly.
So definitely that. Can you re-ask me this question? Because I want to make sure I
Absolutely.
answer it the right
Absolutely. The second one or the first one I was going to ask?
second.
Yeah. So, what strategies would you suggest for someone who engages in compulsive consumption related to clothing or accessories? So, we'll say wardrobe. And then, how do you feel like they can manage those impulses effectively?
Okay, so this is a technique that I use with a lot of my clients who struggle with any kind of maladaptive behavior. Maladaptive behavior is something that I do that is not necessarily healthy. It doesn't make me feel great, but it's a coping skill. It's something that I'm familiar with. And so what I encourage people to do is, okay, before you click checkout, spend 5 minutes with yourself. What's going on with you? How are you feeling? What do you need? Do you need water? Do you need a hug? Do you need companionship? Do you need to cry? What feeling are you trying to mask with this part of your wardrobe that you may be purchasing, right? That you may not need, you probably don't need, but it's a comfort, right? So instead of being comforted by that right away, spend some time trying to identify the feelings that you're avoiding, right? That is really important. And so I say that to my people who struggle with drinking, who struggle with smoking, cigarettes, weed, crack, whatever, stuff, all the stuff. But I say to them, okay, before you drink, before you do this thing, sit with your feelings, sit with yourself for a few minutes and see where that discomfort is, see what's happening, see what feelings are coming up for you. And then if after the few minutes you still want to do it, we'll work on that later. And there's no judgment here. But let's see what those feelings are. So now we can have words for what we're trying to kind of stuff or get rid of.
I love that because it kind of ties right back into that. If we can change our unclothed cognition and understand that these wardrobe items are tools for expression and tools to connect with others, that's why some people, if you notice, like guys who wear really funky suits, right? They always get a lot of great attention and they get the best compliments and everybody wants to
Yes.
talk to them and people want to take
Yes.
pictures with them, right? That
Yes.
makes them feel good, but also the people that see them feel good. And they might have went home and said, wow, I saw this guy today who was wearing this crazy suit and it was so cool. And
Mhm.
so just keeping that in mind, right? Like that's how our wardrobes are actually supposed to serve us.
Mhm.
And they're not
Mhm.
supposed to be like, one-time use disposable cameras where we're just like, okay, and then we're throwing it because it ends up in Accra, Ghana, Haiti, and Atacama, Chile, and fashion week sites, which can be looked up in research, feet feet high, very high, big piles of clothing from the places like America and England who can afford to be able to have those fast fashion
Discard. Mhm.
figures. And although it's making a secondhand industry, I think that some of those great people working to kind of go through those clothes and sell them at the market, I know in my heart that they probably can do something that makes them happier and it better serves them if they didn't have that environmental issue. So
Yes.
I
Yes.
definitely agree. So that brings us to the question 5. What role does self-esteem play in wardrobe utilization, and how might it influence someone's shopping habits?
Huh. So that goes back to the like see me, see me, see me kind of thing, right? Because a lot of times we place value on our possessions and
Mm-hmm.
not on who we truly are, right?
Yeah.
Because if I said like, tell me about yourself, it wouldn't be, oh, I am an engineer and this is what I do, and I'm a mom or I'm a, this or that, right? Instead of titles, it's who are you? And so a lot of times clothing is like a shield for us, and it shows up as this is who I'm portraying myself to be. And sometimes it's good, right? Because sometimes we're not feeling great, but we want to. And so clothing helps us to tap into that like esteem, even ego that we need to be like, okay, girl, you got it. You got it. Right. Or sometimes it's like, I don't want anyone to know how horrible I feel about myself. And so I'm just going to show up with these fancy socks, right? Or something like that, so that people pay more attention to that than the look in my eyes, which is of pain
Mm-hmm.
or of hurt or something of that nature.
Or emptiness sometimes because there's I'm in the fashion industry and I meet a lot of very fashionable stylish people, and some of them I can tell because I used to be there, right? I used to be one of them, which a lot of people don't know. I need to start talking about it more, but I people don't know I used to be a
Yes.
whole shopping addict. It wasn't even a game. Anybody that knew me knows that semi-annual sale at Bath and Body Works, I'm dropping $200 at least. And it didn't matter if I used the stuff in a year or not. I had a dresser full of it, and it just felt better. The anxiety, that it, the anxiety I felt when it wasn't full was me. I don't know what I was really at this point. I don't remember what I was personally fighting against, but I know the feeling that you're speaking about. That
Yes.
it's just like I need to do something. Okay, well, this works, right? And then, oh, okay, I keep doing that. But you're not realizing that you have now a full stop, right? Because you're now just stuck on the feeling, and I'll get to where to put that stuff later. So I
Yep.
definitely identify with that for sure. So
And that's
then
where hoarding comes, right? Like that's how hoarding gets developed, by doing those things. And I think it's really important to note that, like, okay, where did this feeling come from that I have to get, right? Because sometimes it's not something that we develop on our own, but it's something that our survival brain develops,
yep.
right? So, not wardrobe, but I will be transparent and say that something in my soul is uncomfortable if I'm low on ketchup.
Okay.
Right? Like if I do not have, oh my goodness, if I'm low on ketchup, it's like I gotta get to the store. I can't eat anything that requires ketchup until I get to the store, because I come from a background where we didn't have enough.
Okay.
Right? And so sometimes that shows up in our wardrobe, right? Like I gotta have this because when I was growing up, I got made fun of for my skips, right? Or something like that. And those are the feelings that we're trying to mask with our wardrobe. So
Yeah.
that's also really important to note.
I totally agree, and I identify, and that's what I was touching on with what I said earlier. So
Yep.
again, that's why you're here, the
Yes.
council. Because that's what I was trying to say. You said
Yes.
exactly what I was trying to say, that I can see that. And then someone who's been fashionable my whole life, I've been dressing myself since I was 6. Um, and I was thankfully afforded a family that was supportive of my fashion journey and stuff. But some of my, peers who didn't have the money for things, I noticed some of them when we got out of high school and they were able to, or out in high school when they were to get jobs, a lot of times they changed how they dressed, and then their ego kind of boosted up. And then, but for me, right, my ego is chill because I'm used to this stuff. Like this is
Yes.
whatever. So
Yes.
I noticed that they had a boost up, and maybe like they started to have a little sassiness, and like,
Yes.
people go,
Hmm.
certain things. And I'm like, oh,
Hmm.
feel yourself, but don't
Yes.
talk to me like that, but feel yourself.
Like you still JJ, okay? Like you
Right.
still little JJ. I remember you.
That part. So so it's like, I love that you're feeling yourself, but I see what these clothes are doing to you. And that's the part, right, where it's like, let's understand that it's great to have, for me, expensive clothes really just mean very nice fabrics and textures for me. If it's not a nice fabric or texture, I'm not paying a lot of money for it.
Mhm.
I'm
Mhm.
very clear about that. I don't care if the salesperson's been there 20 years. I'm a professional shopper. So it's like, no, no, no. What is this made of? Okay, no, I don't, that material for that much. Nah, I know how they make that, right? So that's another thing,
Mm.
that if we educate ourselves too as to what they're selling us, because I used to work at Coach as assistant manager, and
Mhm.
at the Coach store, but we
Yes.
educated that the stuff at the outlet, right? They made bags for the outlet. Those bags were not handmade. They often had many inconsistencies in the quality, but they were hundreds of dollars cheaper, right? But I walked away in my heart knowing I will never buy a bag from a Coach outlet. I'm wasting my money. You're literally buying a Walmart bag for a coat with the Coach symbol on. It's like,
Ooh,
yeah, it's
I
literally.
feel that because I'm over here. I got a couple bags that I know for sure I got from the outlet. Like, God,
And not all of them. So I won't say every single one, but the ones that are made specifically for the outlet. And a
Mhm.
lot of times the ones in the outlet with the Coach monogram, those are the ones that they trick you, right? They're like, yeah, it's Coach, but you're not realizing that it's like some type of plastic coated something. The leather grade isn't what it's
Mm.
used to. It's not a full grain leather. It's not even butter
Mhm.
soft. When you use it over time, it doesn't break down and break in like leather does. Ooh, leather is so good for that, right? So it's just kind of like, that's what I kind of try to keep in my mind anyway, and teach other people when I have the opportunity in my workshops, of like, it's not all that it's cracked up to be, especially now. And the fabrics that we wear, they do actually mentally send a signal, right? There's a difference, mental signal, if you're wearing spandex as opposed to silk. Because when you got that silk
Mm.
on, nobody, don't touch me.
I
Touch me.
feel that. Yes.
Like, I know it
Yes.
looks nice, but don't touch. Whereas it's like, hey, if I have on spandex, I'm running around running errands. Hey, give me a hug. How you doing?
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, 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 yeah.
I'm just chilling.
Yes,
So
yes.
I just wanted to expand on that. So we're gonna jump into
Yeah.
question 6. Can you discuss the concept of minimalism in relation to wardrobe optimization? And do you feel like adopting a mindset of minimalism's benefit people in some way? Or I'll just leave it there and let you answer it.
Yes, and I think, and this comes a lot from our conversation that we had last year in terms of like going through your wardrobe and seeing how this feels and what this means to you and things like that. And really, most of my clothing that I have, I've been going through this myself, is like, okay, I want to kind of change my wardrobe a little bit, but these are pieces that I've had for years. I have a shirt. Oh my goodness, I've had this shirt since I was 18 years old, and
Wow.
I am double that, right? So I have this shirt and I love this shirt. And I remember the store that I bought this shirt from. I remember the first job that I wore this shirt to. I love this shirt. And every year I'm like, is it time to get rid of this shirt? And I'm like, no, like I love this shirt, right? And when it comes to being more minimalist, it's really like I just want clothes that I love. I want things that I love that make me feel good. Not clothing that I'm trying to get attention from, not clothing that I'm trying to have someone else feel good about me in. I just want things that make me feel good. And I come from like the Spice Girl era. So to me, it's like just some cute platform sandals and some, it doesn't matter, no name brand jeans. As long as I feel good in them, I don't need to have a lot. I just need to have what makes me feel complete. All right.
I
And
totally
the spectrum, the measure of what makes me feel complete materialistically is small because I feel complete in every other aspect of my life. So yes.
I love that answer. And I also can join anyone that sentiment that because I used to be, a maximalist to the nth degree, right? 2.5 closets full of stuff. Seriously. And now I'm like, okay with my, I still got a couple closets. Okay.
Yeah.
But I wear my stuff, but I do wear my things. It's very, way more efficiently organized for my mental capacity. Say I'm having a bad day and I still have something to do, or I still have a presentation, or I still have a workshop to do. It is so much better getting dressed now in the environment that I've created for my wardrobe as
Yeah.
opposed to before. The chaos that I put myself through, I don't even understand. Again, it was the mental piece, right? I don't even understand why I would even purposefully set up that type of system to prepare myself for anything, right? So I'm thankful for the mental freedom that I was get provided myself. And if anybody, who's watching is like, well, what she look at my Facebook and see the style is not compromised, ladies and gentlemen. The style is still there. It's just more
It's
the
there.
mind behind how I look at these items. It's not, I don't cherish it as much. And I don't mind I don't mind as much getting my stuff dirty, or like with my nieces and nephews, getting on the floor, my great nephew. I have a great nephew now. He's 1 and he's on the floor, he's on the go, and he's doing what he wants
Yes.
to do. And it's when I was first became an aunt, it was like, don't touch me. Oh, the baby, the baby threw up. It was like
Yeah.
that, right? My jeans. Now I'm like, whatever. My family, they're so used to how I was. They're like, oh my God, I'll get. And I'm like, girl, I'm just playing with this baby. I'm not worried about the vomit,
Yes.
crackers on my shirt, whatever. I
Yes.
wore it over here to see him if I didn't think that it was okay. So again,
Mhm.
like the fulfilling part I wanted to touch on, like I'm so fulfilled on
Yes.
other levels that when it comes to my clothing, other than like oh, maybe I need some maintenance to something, or I really do need a little black dress because the last
Mhm.
one I have is not serving me, then so be it. And then have fun shopping, right? But as
Yes.
long as it's working for me, I work it, and really
Mhm.
try to, at this point, I would say everyone, if we could think about it in this economy, right? Why doesn't it make sense to want to increase your cost per wear? So I will leave that
Yes.
there because like
Because we could go on a whole,
yeah,
that's a
that's what
whole other.
not because oh my God, everything's expensive.
Mhm.
And then it's like I still have to buy all these, I'm not buying these clothes. So
Mm-mm.
our next question, I think I just, yep. So how do societal norms and cultural influence, let me first give you a preface. When I do my
Okay.
workshops, I teach the different reasons why people buy what we buy. And two of them are societal norms, cultural influences. Time and attention are the other two, and function. So,
Yeah.
but this one is just the societal and culturally. How would you say that those two factors impact people's perception of clothing and personal style? And then how may they contribute to the spectrum that we started off speaking about?
Mm. So I think it comes from a lot of like lack. Our country is really like top heavy, and the top heavy have a huge impact and influence over, you know, us who are in the same socioeconomic grade or class. And so really it's like this is a measure of success in society, and our culture really values, the $1,000 shirt or something like that, and it's not as important as the ethnic, cultural, relational dynamics, right? And so when we think of culture, we think of, okay, when do we put these things on, right? I
Money?
know in certain, yep. So I know like in
Sorry, you
certain,
were frozen.
okay. So in certain like some cultures, they only bring out the finest linens, silks, and things like that for weddings, right? And things like that. But in our American Western culture, we're like, oh, if you go outside, you got to be dripped, right? Like you got to be wearing the best of the best of the best. And it doesn't talk to how you're feeling,
Right.
right? And I think that we're seeing that, especially in the year of 2024, Cat Williams post interview, right? That these people that we are putting on a pedestal and idolizing and saying like, oh, I need to have this kind of watch, I need to have this kind of, whatever. It's like that's not what makes the quality of a person,
Nope.
right? And so I think that really the goal, my hope, is that we transition to a culture of looking at our heart and character, right? I'm feeling like Martin Luther King, like that we're judged based on our character, the content of our character, and not the external factors. So culture sometimes can be a burden to our culture, American Western culture, can be a burden on the everyday person who really just wants to feel happy and complete, because we see it as this is what makes someone happy, this is what makes someone powerful and influential and things like that, and that's not the case at all.
I totally agree. And I often speak on how, especially in the inner city, how it's such a controversial thing, right? To have like Jordans and certain things, if you're from the inner city, there's certain things if you're from or have lived in the inner city or spent time in the inner city that just come in the wardrobe area I'm speaking about. It just comes with it. If you don't have it, you're corny, right? And it's just this, and that. And I remember back in middle school, as I said, I just said my history. So in middle school, I was wearing Ralph Lauren Purple Label, which
Mhm.
is the higher, like a higher scale of Ralph Lauren, where
Okay.
that's what really, like, really wealthy people don't really like a lot of like branding because it's
Yeah.
free advertisement. So as a middle schooler, I kind of was like already in that type of space because I've been dressing myself for since I was 6. So I'm like, yeah, I remember people trying to make fun of me for having Ralph Lauren Purple Label sweaters and jeans because they didn't say Ralph Lauren on it. It just was a really nice cashmere sweater and a nice pair of fitting jeans. And I
Hmm.
didn't really care about the polo horse and all that. But the tag said Ralph Lauren, and my mom, she bought it for me. So we know it was legit. So I was cool with that. Like I didn't have
Hmm.
but oh my goodness, some of the conversations that I remember having again, in the inner city, I'm from Schenectady, New York, and now that I'm grown, I'm like, I wish I could have been told, said like, how dare you? With us all living here, none of our
Listen,
parents are rich. How dare you try to like down, even because at the time I defended myself, right? I'm like, this is Ralph Lauren and all that superficial stuff. But who I am now would have just started laughing and said, honey, that doesn't
mhm.
matter so much that you should probably worry about your grades, right? Like, let's worry about getting ourselves out of this economic slump that we're in and be thankful for whatever we have today because now that a lot of us are grown, we have different outcomes, right? And
Mhm,
like I said before,
mhm,
I noticed that some of the people that were focused longer on superficial materials,
mhm.
they don't seem to have as a fulfilling life. And I still, my heart still goes out to them, and I still hope that they kind of refocus. But in the meantime, it's the way that America is keeping us with the haves and have nots. We're spending our money trying to be rich instead of saving it and being rich.
I completely agree with that, and I think I don't know how I missed it. I mean, I definitely was a victim of bullying because I never cared about those things. Like, I was never like, I was just like, it's cute, it's comfy. That has been my styles for as long as I can remember.
Yes.
Like, platform shoes, cute white shirt, and some, I don't know, whatever pants or, something like that. None of those things meant anything to me. I didn't buy my first pair of like sneakers that cost $100 until like 2 years ago, maybe.
Okay.
And that was only because I'm like, okay, I need something to be able to work out in. But aside from that, I bought a pair of sneakers from Rainbow, okay? And those things are comfortable, and I wear those things all the time, and they're super cute, and that's just always been my style. So, like, I hope that we get to a place where we, continue to that we start to really just say, like, how are you as a person, and not like, oh, look at her with those corny sneakers on, right? It's like, these are cute and they match my shirt,
Right.
like,
Right. And I
yeah.
agree with you 1,000%, because if when I did have a shopping, a shopping addiction, I call it a shopping addiction, but it might have been compulsive shopping, right? But when I was going through the throes of it, people really assumed I was fine. They were like, "She's fine, honey. Just say it is fabulous." People say she's fabulous. I can't wait for you to meet her. And I come in with my little depressed self. I'm depressed, dressed up and depressed. Like, hey, and everybody's like, "She's fabulous," and I'm just like, you know,
And people
because
were saying to me, like, oh, she's corny. And I'm like, but I feel good. You know what I mean? Like, like
like,
I feel great.
and it's so backwards. And so that's
Yeah.
why I agree with you a
Yeah.
1,000%, because when I did switch up my style a little bit, I remember remarks from close friends who I love dearly. They were like, "Girl, you different. Ooh, I don't know what you wearing, that little grandma little," and I'm like, "Yeah, I'm rocking the grandma sweater because the grandma sweater looks cute and it costs $20, right?" So off to our last question here. Have you encountered any specific case studies or client scenarios related to wardrobe utilization and their mental health? And what stood out to you in particular, if anything, um, on that? Yeah.
So no, no, I haven't. And also, our people are not represented as well in terms of like Black, brown people are not really represented as well in research
Okay.
altogether, right? Mental health research, especially.
Yeah.
I haven't, but what I will say is the fact that the way that someone physically appears in their wardrobe is in our mental status exam to check on someone's mental status is it speaks to the significance of your wardrobe in assessing how you're doing. Right. So, like, and there's training that we get to be able to assess. And so that's a part of it. It's a part of all of the training. Like, all right, when your client walks in, are they looking down? What are they wearing? Are they looking disheveled? Not, and it's in context, right? Not that they just came from work and they are a painter, but it's like, no, they've been home all day. They were off today. They came in and their clothes were stained, or they didn't look comfortable in their clothing. And you could tell, and they felt, and when someone looks uncomfortable, you can tell.
Right.
When someone feels uncomfortable in their clothing, you can tell. And it may even be like the nicest outfit or the most expensive outfit, but when you just don't feel good, none of that matters. So I'm interested in seeing what the research is saying or will say, because we need more. We need more information on, okay, how does wardrobe look in a healthy minded, emotionally healthy person versus someone who isn't. And we talked about the spectrum because that can go from extremely disheveled, not clean clothing to very well put together, but they have the same mental health diagnosis, right? The same exact mental health diagnosis. And so we shouldn't judge that. We should always be careful to ask how people are doing and what is going on with them with a genuine heart, right? Like, what's going on? Like, I noticed that, like, you've been wearing all these fancy clothes lately, and that's not, and if it's someone who's like, yeah, I just want to change up my style because, I felt like I felt bored with my work. Okay, that's something different and you can afford it. Okay. The issue comes in when your wardrobe hoarding, compulsive shopping, it starts to become problematic when it's affecting your relationships, it's affecting your esteem, when it's affecting your work, your home environment, when it's affecting those life areas, that's when it's like, okay, something else is going on here.
Right.
It's not just your wardrobe, it's something deeper than that.
I totally agree. And I can share that I had and I think she's great, but I had a counselor once who, when I started going to her, it was right after my sister passed away. And so obviously I wasn't dressing that great. Like I was just barely getting there. And one day I had like a job, an interview for a gig or whatever. So I went in before the meeting with them to get my mind right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I walked in. She's never seen me dressed up before. So when I walked in, she's like, "Oh, look at you! You must be having a good day." And I was like, "Absolutely not. Having a horrible day. I got something to do later." And I had to break it down for her real quick on, as the woman that I am, this I can always do that. Like that's what, I don't care how I feel. That's when we were going through a very hard time in my family. My mother and I both, first, we just kept showing up, and it wasn't. I really think it was a coping mechanism for both of us. I feel like with the things that was going on, if we would have showed up anything less than like how we just show up, I don't think we would have been just be able to be ourselves and actually be a part of the situation, right?
Mhm.
So it was interesting when she said that, and our conversation went beautiful after that. But I had to kind of real quick give her a mental adjustment of like, hey, with me, don't take anything I wear as any indicator of anything. Like I literally have a lifestyle that calls for me to dress up, calls for me to be in a certain way, and I also strive for a certain level of excellence in the things that I like to do, right?
Mhm.
So I was like, if how I usually dress is how I usually really want to dress, but I know how to present myself. So I just wanted to share that little scenario that I had as a
It's
client.
important, and that's important, and as a therapist, I'll say that that wasn't very trauma-informed of them,
Mhm.
because a trauma-informed therapist is more observant and allows you to tell them how you feel, or is observant and still waiting to come to that conclusion based on the conversation and not your presentation, right? That's unfair. That's an unfair assessment, and it puts a pressure on a client to continue the facade so that they look like they're doing okay. And that's not okay.
Right. And I think that's something that I'll just speak on as a Black woman. I'll say I think that that's something a lot of us Black women can identify with, right? Like we can have our girl time and we look fabulous at brunch, but we're like, girl, shut up, and we all look, the table is looking fabulous, smelling
Yes.
fabulous,
Yes.
plates are coming, everybody's having
Hmm.
mimosas, good time. And we're
Hmm.
sitting there talking about, I'm depressed, girl. I just got dressed today after a week. I'm happy y'all called me out to come do something because
Or
I'm,
I just showered after
yeah,
2 days because it was like, all right, girl, you can't go outside looking like this. But it doesn't change the fact that I've been struggling lately.
right.
Hmm.
Or like I had a friend who went through
Hmm.
something terrible, and I would go see her sometimes, and she would be like in bed with her pajamas, but she would look so cute. And I'll go to give her a hug. She's like, "Girl, I ain't take a shower, so I don't know if you want to hug me." And I'm like, "Girl, give me a hug. I don't even worry about it.
That's
I'm not even
right.
worried
That's
about
right.
that. I'm not worried about what you're wearing. I'm not worried about any of those constituents. I'm worried about how you're doing. That's why I'm here." And by the time I left, a lot of times, it's like a little bit better. So I'm like,
Yeah.
cool, but
Yeah.
I just wanted to throw that in there as well, because especially as a Black woman, I think sometimes
Hmm.
that's one of our favorite go-tos, is like those little self-care things. And
Hmm.
I don't think there's anything wrong with it up until the things you already stated, that it starts to interfere with other parts of our lives. But other than that, I do like that part of my culture, and that's where I started off at, is like my cousins, my mother, and all of us just doing a little retail
Yeah.
therapy after paying bills on Friday, right? Well, Saturday after paying bills on Friday. Um,
Hmm.
So I just wanted to make sure I warmed that back up for anyone listening, that we're not saying that just because you do retail therapy that you're, it's like, oh, don't do that. We're saying that if you're noticing the retail therapy is something that's coming after an emotional change, and if the retail therapy is in a way for you to avoid something in your life that you kind of have should be a part of dealing with, that's what the issue is. So I just wanted to be
Yes.
sure that was clear and no one felt like they were being judged just for shopping. It's like, no, that's not the problem. Is the problem is that shopping can lead to behavioral issues, family issues, and then as global citizens, we do have a fashion waste crisis. It's actually a crisis, because those fashion waste sites sometimes catch on fire due to those synthetic fibers that are there under those hot suns. Africa's hot, Chile's hot, Haiti's hot. Okay, these are not cool. These are not cool climates. So as the temperatures rise and the fabrics melt and things like that, there is unfortunately sometimes fires that happen, and not only do they ruin clothes that could be resold, which it hurts the economy there, they also have hurt people or can hurt people. So
Yes.
just wanted to make sure that we're all mindful of that. And in closing, is there anything else that comes to mind that you wanted to share, or well, while you were speaking you were like, oh, I wanted to say that?
Yeah, I wanted to say that this is all for awareness and not conviction, right? It's something to be aware of and to check in with yourself and to see, like, okay, maybe let me start to see how I feel when I'm making these purchases or when I'm wearing these clothing items. So now I can say, like, oh, okay, no, I'm good. Or I might want to, why? I might want to look into that a little bit more and to tell your support system where you are with this because we need the accountability of our people.
I love that. I really do. And I agree with you that this is for awareness, because any awareness is good awareness, right? And if we're in a fast fashion climate, awareness is one way we could slow it down without making too many changes, right? Just being aware, checking out the environment, on where it is. Like, even if you want to just check the places you shop and you're just like, let me just check and see if they have ethical practices when it comes to how they deal with their clothing or where they manufacture their clothing. Can I find out if that's ethical so we can avoid things like Rana Plaza, right, where people like over 1,000 people passed, because of the manufacturing that was happening in a zoned building that wasn't zoned for that, right? So that
Yes.
right there, just those couple little things of just slowing it down, doing an evaluation, that can even slow down the fast fashion pace enough
Yes.
for some of the professionals like myself to start to catch up to the solutions that we're going to need to. I would love in the next 5 years or so to really see a dent. Like with when I look at pictures of those sites, I would be ecstatic to see like an actual visible dent of change
Yes.
in those places. So that's what my heart is in it for, and I
Yes.
appreciate you for your insight. Um,
My pleasure. And so we want to also let the people know that if they have any questions or follow up to put it in the comments. Let us know and we will respond because we want more awareness out there.
Absolutely. So again, thank you so much, Kwani. I always love doing this with you every year. This is becoming an annual thing, and I'm loving it. And I appreciate you. So again, I'm Jasenia from Styled and Emerge, wardrobe utilization specialist,
And
and
I'm
we have
LaQuania with Ready Counseling Services, certified trauma informed care practitioner.
all
Yes.
right, and at this point, we just want to wish you a very wonderful day or evening, depending on when
Yes.
you're looking at this. And again, please don't feel shy. Don't feel like you don't all questions are good questions. So feel
Yes.
free to even if I asked a question and you weren't clear on how it was answered, feel free to join the conversation. We love to hear your
Yes.
thoughts. We love to hear your opinions, and we appreciate you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And everyone have
Bye.
a great evening.
Bye.